Hi, and welcome to the Midday Market Update for January 5th, 2021, our first episode of 2021. My name is Kevin Hill, here as always with Michael Vincent.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's great to be here, right? I mean,
we survived 2020. That's what it means.
Yeah, it is. It is. I guess it is. Can we survive 2021? Well, I guess we'll find out in a number of days. Yeah. But this is an interactive show.
It is interactive, so we'll be on LinkedIn and Facebook as well as FreightWaves TV. So yep. I'm about to dial into the LinkedIn, and if you survive 2020, drop us a note, ask us a question.
It shows your age. You're about to dial into that LinkedIn.
Dial into that LinkedIn.
Has anybody ever dialed into LinkedIn? I wonder if Andrew Cox does. He probably.
I wonder if he does.
I don't know.
Well, we have a great show for you
today. We do.
At the bottom of the hour, we have Sherman from Trio's Trucking joining us talking about the freight markets. And then we have our very own John Gallagher at 12:40 joining us to talk about 2021 and regulations and what a Biden administration means for trucking and logistics.
Yeah, he's also got some takes on the Senate race in Georgia.
He does, yes.
What that potentially means, the impacts of what comes out of there. So very, very interesting. And I see we have a stand. Kaylee Nix is standing in for
Nick Austin.
For Nick Austin.
Yeah.
Right.
For the weather.
Yeah. I heard he was embarrassed because I called the White Christmas and he wouldn't guarantee it.
I know. I think that's the reason why he's not here today.
That's what I think
because he could not deliver your White Christmas.
It did. He refused to. He refused to guarantee it, but it happened anyways. Here we got snow.
Did you?
Yeah, absolutely, it did.
Nice.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. But so we'll have Zach Strickland, our Director of Freight Market Intelligence, talking about the freight markets as well through Sonar, and our lead economist, Anthony Smith, here in a little bit. But let's start off with the news. We have a defamation lawsuit between two freight tech companies, don't we, Andrew Cox?
We do. So we have a legal dispute between the two leading freight visibility platforms, which are Project 44 and FourKites. That legal dispute is now poised to move forward at a status conference next month. The origination of this suit dates back to April when Project 44 sued FourKites for defamation and civil conspiracy, accusing its rival of sending false pseudonymous emails to Project 44 board members and employees alleging accounting improprieties, fraud, and intimidation of former employees. The suit stems from two emails sent by Gmail accounts in May 2019. Project 44 says that it has uncovered proof that those emails came from FourKites' India IP addresses and that the accounts were linked to a cell phone number listed by FourKites as an official number on its SEC documents. The first email claims to be from a recently departed Project 44 employee who claims to warn the Project 44 board of how the company has used its connections to a Chicago mafia to silence former employees. The email goes on to allege rampant accounting improprieties and draws a connection to the departure of Project 44's chief financial officer. In the second email, dated May 27th, 2019, a message was sent to Project 44's new Chief Revenue Officer, Tim Bertrand, referring to problems with P44's technology. I quote, "At some point, you're going to have to stop selling stuff and start delivering. You do not want to be the next Ponzi scheme or the next Theranos." The complaint filed by Project 44 notes that the emails accused Project 44 of maintaining ties to organized crime, intimidating employees, engaging in accounting fraud, and lacking a functional technology product. In pre-suit discovery with Google, Project 44 found that two IP addresses that were used to log into both Ken Adams and Jason Smith, those were the pseudonymous accounts. They proved that they both came from the same email. Both IP addresses went to both of email accounts. So the fact that both of the emails sent about a week apart also contained references to Theranos, the notorious Elizabeth Holmes-founded fraud and bankruptcy, was the initial clue that the accounts may be related. FourKites asked the court to dismiss Project 44's suit based on two main arguments. The first being that FourKites argued the emails didn't rise to the level of defamation per se because they weren't published to a third party. In effect, FourKites said that the Project 44's board members were part of the organization, so therefore it wasn't a third party. FourKites' motion was dismissed, and Project 44 is seeking $80,000 and legal fees in the defamation suit.
Okay.
Your thoughts, Michael Vincent?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? I see the competition and stuff like that. I thought it was kind of funny that they paid Google to have it say, "You meant four kites, right?" I thought that was kind of funny, right? Suing over 80,000 for $80,000 in legal fees, doesn't that kind of show you that they're not really all that concerned about what had gone down? They just want to prove a point, more or less.
Yeah, I think it's probably more in principle than anything else.
Yeah, because they didn't get. I mean, they're obviously not claiming that this defamation, if that's what it is, if they decide that's what it is, actually caused them any harm in their sales or anything.
Yeah, financial.
Yeah, because 80 grand is like
harm. Yeah,
right?
it's just to be really the one thing that's really clear about this is that visibility is a very competitive market in freight tech.
Apparently, it really is.
It is. Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
I think the second instance of it is more clearly something that you could show they tried to cause harm to Project 44 because they sent it to a very new, new CFO, right, to try and I guess get him to leave. I mean, I guess that's the most one because they talk about four kites. When four kites says, Andrew, and I correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but doesn't four kites kind of say that there's not a readily available or a conclusion to the emails, right, to them or something like along that verbiage.
Yeah, they were saying that there was no, final say, and I think their big point was the argument from the legal officer from Four Kites was saying that it wasn't published, publicly. It wasn't on a third party, like you and I were speaking before this. They didn't call the Wall Street Journal and say these things. They were reaching out directly to Four Kites employees and board members. So they're just saying that because there's no third party involved, it can't be, by definition, defamation.
Yeah, so Four Kites is basically saying they have some people that may or may not have sent an email or made some phone calls to Project 44 people and say, hey, you guys stink. That's basically what they're saying, right?
Yeah, it is. And so we have David Salerno, Happy New Year. He's at Marino. CL says hi. Nico Brown is here. Hi, Nico. Mark Pena, my favorite show on the planet. There's good news for you, Michael Vincent, right? And James Fry from Universal Truckload says, good afternoon. So, Andrew, Forward Air is still making news. What is it today?
Yeah, this one comes from Todd Maiden. A group of investors are seeking to shake things up at the expedited trucking company Forward Air. Cleveland-based Ancora Advisors has taken an activist role alongside former Forward Air founder Scott Niswonger, as well as former Forward Air CFO Andy Clark. The group seeks to enhance shareholder value through a variety of measures, including changes to the management team, changes to the board, as well as its capital allocation strategy. The documents also signaled a potential divestiture of non-core assets. The investment group owns about 5.3% of Forward Air. The group has met with Forward Air management team and will continue to engage in discussions to create shareholder value. The current management team may have sensed this coming, the need for improved stock performance ahead of a recent activist buying opportunity. Although it's not a great comparison because Forward Air is not a traditional LTL player. They do mostly airport-to-airport runs, but Wall Street looks for comparisons, so they see Old Dominion and Saia, who are traditional LTL players. Their stock has greatly outperformed Forward Air this year. And under the current management, Forward Air has taken a no-wait approach to both organic initiatives and acquisitions. In July, they began offering a traditional LTL service outside of its normal airport-to-airport network. They've also been very busy in the M&A department. They added intermodal drayage company Value Logistics in October, as well as final mile provider CLW Delivery in September. This follows 2 acquisitions in 2019. In Q3, Forward handily beat analyst expectations, but net income fell 20% year over year and operating ratio declined 230 basis points. For comparison, those comps that I said earlier, ODFL and Saia both posted OR improvements, with ODFL posting its best OR in company history.
It seems to be that the new management is all about growth and that the activists are more about profitability. Is that how you read it, Andrew?
That's how I'm reading it, especially given that that the former founder and the former CFO are coming along with these. They both run their own projects. They both have busy schedules on them, but they're coming back to work with Ancora Advisors to come in on this activist role. So that seems like that's the case here, that they're looking to get back towards a path of profitability.
Yeah, kind of a disagreement on how to get things done, right?
Yes.
I gather from this they're not all excited about the no waiting and just acquiring and building things up.
Yeah, it's just two very different strategies, right?
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
Intense growth, which the new management is pursuing, and then you have the activists coming in, which are the former founder and CFO, talking about selling off non-core assets, which you'd have to think are things that were just purchased in the last year or so.
All the new toys they just purchased. Yeah.
So there's a lot of strategies for business, and we'll see how this shakes out in the coming months. I'm sure that they're going to probably lobby for a board seat on the next shareholder election.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, we'll see. We have some other Wall Street news with Zim, container line Zim, in an IPO, right, Andrew?
Yeah, Kevin, there's no end in sight for this record-breaking trans-Pacific container freight market boom. Now, there could be a new, more direct way for traders and investors to bet on the ultra-hot market. Israeli liner operator Zim just filed for an initial public offering on the New York Stock Exchange. This marks the fourth attempt to bring Zim public since the Ofer family took the carrier private in 2004. As with the rest of the container industry, Zim has traveled a rocky road. Over the past decade, it was forced to make two major restructurings of its debt and ship leases, one during the financial crisis and then another back in 2015. But the fourth time could finally be the charm for an IPO. As reported by American Shipper several days before the Zim filing, there has not been a successful shipping IPO in the U.S. market since 2015, yet Zim appears to be the most likely to break the losing streak. Given today's unprecedented rate froth, the trans-Pacific container trade, and everything else going on in the industry, the timing couldn't be better.
Timing couldn't be better, really. I mean, if you look at the ocean activity and maritime activity, if you're going to IPO, strike when the iron's hot. And the iron is hot right now.
It certainly is, and everybody's very bullish on the future right now.
I know, right?
So,
So Andrew, we have some strange news out of Mexico with a train of Volkswagen vehicles. Fill us in on that.
Yeah, Kevin, a train carrying more than 160 Volkswagen cars was derailed in Mexico late Wednesday by armed thieves, according to the Mexican authorities. The train tracks were cut near the town of, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but about 80 miles southeast of the Volkswagen assembly plant in Pueblo, Mexico, where the company makes its Jetta, Tiguan, and Golf models. Authorities said that about 11 train cars were carrying a load of Volkswagen vehicles were bound for Europe, were derailed on the way to the port of Veracruz. The incident happened at about 3 a.m. Wednesday morning. Up to 165 cars may have been damaged during the derailment. The train tracks belong to Ferrosicor Company, a railway that serves the southeast Mexican regions. No arrests have been made, nor has Volkswagen issued any statement on the incident.
Yeah, definitely strange. And
it was Toyota.
I know, right? We have a few seconds left in your segment. Andrew, you just came out with an article from your community, your point of sale newsletter, about your 5 predictions for the retail supply chain. Can you go through that?
Sure, yeah. So I didn't want to recap 2020. There's been a lot of changes in the retail industry. We know that some will stick, some won't. So rather than recapping 2020, I made a forward-looking predictions of 2021. The first one I thought would be an inventory correction. We at FreightWaves and a lot of people in the industry have been, championing this low inventory levels as a variable that will continue the freight boom. I think inventory levels are really low, and I do think that that's going to correct. There's been a major mismatch between retail sales growth and retail import growth. Just for an example, in November, Commerce Department said that retail sales were up a little over 4%, but Pinjava data shows that discretionary imports were up more than 30% for the month. And then there's another factor here that e-commerce is what kind of dwindled inventories down during 2020, but I actually think it will be something that acts as a catalyst for inventories in 2021 as more retailers pivot their stores towards more of a fulfillment center and have fulfillment center duties, picking online orders from the stores. That's just going to increase the inventory levels at stores. So I do think 2021 will be a year of an inventory correction. I also think there's going to be, the second one I have is more focus on the pre-transaction process of returns. We've seen this with Shopify adding 3D imaging or some other carriers adding AR, VR technologies. They're having remarkable results in reducing returns between 25 and 40%. There's been so much focus on reverse logistics this year. Terms like seamless and frictionless have become become part of the layman's vernacular. But I think next year, or this year actually, 2021 will be more of a focus on the pre-transaction side rather than the post. And then 3 last ones, I think on-demand garment manufacturing, so things made for you. Amazon's leading the way here with their customizable t-shirt service that will most likely expand to many other product categories this year. I think we see more of that. That really goes in line with a lot of shoppers changing preferences as well as their desire for sustainability and for climate change. And the last 2 I have is a supply chain CEO. I think that anyone who's been paying attention knows that supply chain management has emerged from its status as kind of a back office function to become a major strategic differentiator for businesses. We've seen Mari Berra at GM or Tim Cook, notable supply chain leaders, rise the ranks of their companies. Most recently, Nordstrom added a supply chain officer to its board. So I think we're going to see more of that. You're going to see more supply chain experts onto the board seats and maybe even some supply chain CEOs. And the last one is I think malls are going to get really clever with their repurposing. They're being called to reinvent themselves and add different types of tenants. I'm looking towards malls adding things like gyms and adding office spaces. They allow you to have consistent traffic. That's something that malls have struggled with for many years, trying to get people in the weekdays and in that first quarter of the year. Gyms are a best opportunity. The week times in gyms match with the high times in shopping and vice versa. So all those New Year's resolutions where people are trying to save money and get in shape, that's good for the malls if you put some gyms in the malls.
Sounds good, Andrew. Thank you very much. How does someone go in and subscribe to your newsletter real quick?
Yeah, you can go to freightwaves.com/communities. All 3 of our newsletters are there, the point of sale, transmission, and the stock out, which are for automotive and CPG, but mine is for point of sale. Get all your retail supply chain insights there.
Thank you, Andrew.
Interesting stuff.
It is interesting stuff. We're 5 days into 2021, so we'll see how Andrew's predictions for retail pan out over the next 360 days.
We've got him on tape, so we'll have to bring him in later and see how all that works out, man.
I know.
See how that gym's working out in the mall.
I know.
I do really find it very interesting, and I think he's dead on with the movement on returns and reverse logistics and the pre-sale experience in e-commerce, right? Because reverse logistics is a necessary evil, and no matter how good you are at it, it's still just an expense and a drag on your company and your capital, right?
It is, yeah.
Solving the issues that cause the e-commerce to be the 4 and 5 times return rate is really where to go.
It really is.
Love it.
It really is. Let's see where there's a white January or some snowstorms around the country now with Kaylee next.
Y'all have been giving Nick so much grief about his promise for a white Christmas, and it delivered here in Chattanooga. We had those little bit of snowflakes. We delivered a white January, though, across the Midwest. Other than that, the start of the new year has been relatively quiet. We can take a look at our Sonar critical events right now. Not a whole lot going on across the country. Main stories, though, we're looking at some increased rainfall and some snowfall across the Pacific Northwest. That's been the consistent story as we've moved through the beginning of the year and through pretty much all of winter so far. Also looking at the possibility for some light snow showers along the central Appalachians. Other than that, though, not a whole lot going on. Do have some brief areas of snow across central Colorado in the Front Range right now. That could develop into a low pressure system as we move later on into the week, but we'll take a deeper look at that going on in just a little bit. Just wanted to say hey guys, and thanks for welcoming me to Mid-Market Update.
Thank you very much for that update, Kaylee. And Kaylee will be joining us at the end of the hour for an update on the weather.
Yeah, I think like 3 more appearances and we can start giving her some grief, right?
I know, right? It probably won't take 3.
It probably won't. Thank you, Kaylee.
Thank you. And we have a question here.
Okay.
From Nico Brown, if I can find it again. Do you think trucking will be impacted if marijuana is legalized at the federal level? I have customers who are concerned.
If trucking will be affected if marijuana is legalized? Yeah. Why would they?
I don't know. I don't think it's a capacity question. I think it's probably a drug clearinghouse, which we'll ask John Gallagher.
Yeah. John Gallagher would be good with it. Yeah,
it
is affecting it already. You got Hope White, who's just she's hauling hemp all over the place, she just convert to marijuana, right?
Well, look, I wonder what the trucking market is doing right now.
I don't know. Should we ask someone?
Post-holiday, I think we have the person. Who do you think?
I think Zach.
I do too.
All right, let's do that.
What do we have, Zach?
Hey guys, Happy New Year. So yeah, we wrapped up Christmas. tender rejection rates peaked out again right about 28.37%. So just to put that in perspective, we actually topped that on Thanksgiving. So we didn't have as strong of a secondary peak. Now, it wasn't as clear cut as just saying, okay, capacity was tighter over Thanksgiving than it was over Christmas. Van rejection rates actually did top out over Christmas higher than the Thanksgiving value. The reefer market did have a little bit of tightness come online. We really topped out just about 3 percentage points, so about 46% versus 49% over Thanksgiving in the reefer market. They had a secondary wave, but that went away, kind of fizzled out. And then, not to put any shade on that 46% rejection rate, that's still close to 1 out of every 2 loads getting rejected. But the van market did actually stay a little bit tighter over the Christmas holiday versus the reefer market, and the overall conditions still extremely tight right now coming out of the holiday period. But one thing to note is that the Los Angeles market, which has been one of the tighter markets of the year, has now started to stabilize and has fallen below the Atlanta market, the Chicago area, as kind of the reigning king of the strong, the big markets.
Yeah, there's only 20% rejection rate. It's a fire sale out there.
Right? That's you find any truck you want. Is that part of that slowing of imports coming into the West Coast, Zach?
So one of the things that's keeping this in line is that rail has actually taken over a lot of the volume out of the West Coast. We've seen rail volumes stayed very strong throughout the actually unseasonably strong throughout December, and then they kind of waned down as shippers stopped shipping as much freight off the West Coast, probably in preparation for taking vacations themselves. We do see imports, our custom shipments, starting to pick back up again right where they left off as the ports get back to busy activity. That's probably going to it's probably going to push those rejection rates back up here shortly. We are seeing, even though we did come out of the holiday peak season, we are seeing markets like Atlanta and Chicago show slight increases as they bounced coming out of the holiday period. Normally this time of year, we see nothing but kind of almost, I don't want to say it's a straight trend line down in terms of overall rejection rates, but normally we see a little bit more of a consistent downward trend, and these two markets, obviously 2 of the bigger freight markets in the United States, have not taken that direct course just yet. The Northeast, up there around Harrisburg, is taking, however, a very straight line down after being one of the tightest large areas of the country over Christmas. This is expected because you have a lot more short haul freight up there. You don't have the need for all that retail distribution like we did a month ago. So that's not necessarily unexpected, but there still appears to be quite a bit of fuel left in this tank. And even though things are kind of stabilizing at the moment, there's still a lot left to go.
Yeah, I agree with you, Zach. We were talking about this before, whether, and Kevin, we were talking about whether January was going to occur again, right? Yeah. Like your normal January. But I agree. The Northeast, that dip in the Northeast, you see that coming down, is not indicative that there's no fuel left in this tank, because you've still got 25 ships that are sitting off the coast of Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. They got the backups there, and you got the stimulus package that just went through. There was the big fight that went on, in case you were asleep during that week. But I think that definitely helps with the fuel moving forward as well. So I think it's yet to be said whether January occurs at the normal way or not. It appears to me like maybe it won't. I don't know what your thoughts are, Zach.
Yeah, I don't, it's hard to tell just yet, but it looks like we're about to see another resurgence. I mean, you still have so much replenishment ready to go. And again, these shippers, think about it. We got Chinese New Year coming on here in a month, and they still got to replenish what they didn't have in 2020. And now they've just had Christmas, and then they got to plan for what happens for this 4 to 6 week dead period that occurs right around Chinese New Year from February into March. So I think that we're actually going to see a strong Q1 here coming online, again, due to the fact that they're going to have to rebuild their inventory after this strong retail season that they weren't ready for to begin with. And then, as you mentioned earlier, reverse logistics are going to create even more problems.
We'll see how January pans out in the first quarter as we move along here in 2021. Thanks for those insights, Zach, and we'll see you Thursday for another update on the freight market. We have Don Tully here from Tully Logistics. Check out how many ships are sitting outside the port. 25, 30 ships out there, which means that we're likely to see this market continue.
Yeah, it didn't stop coming into the country. We stopped moving it for a couple weeks.
We did, yes.
is what happened, right? And we drained warehouses, so now the flood.
It is, and it'll be interesting to see how the rail interacts with trucking and capacity going forward.
Yeah.
It really will.
It absolutely will.
And you mentioned stimulus checks just a second ago, and we have our lead economist, Anthony Smith, here to talk about those stimulus checks. What do we have, Anthony?
That's right. You're stuck under a rock if you haven't seen some of these battles that have been going on. So it's looking like the $2,000 stimulus check is not imminent at any time soon, but more likely that we'll see that $600 stimulus check for those individuals that are, I think the cutoff is going to be at $675,000 annually for, and then additional stimulus for those that have diminished after that $75,000 mark.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were seeing those things that were going on with the fight over the package, right? The last second, Trump saying, "We need $2,000." Right? You saw
I saw that.
Fight.
There's still
and the thing go through, but they did go through the 600, and I think after. What appears is that it'll probably, for the stimulus is once the new administration comes along, Biden's all set for it, right? And I think then you'll have additional, whether you agree that there should be additional or not. I think it's going to come. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
I tend to agree with that. Whether you agree with it or not, I think it's only a matter of time, but before it goes, and we are looking at is it the third or the fourth stimulus package?
That would be the that would be the third if you separate the two. I guess you got to separate the two.
I think there was one before that wasn't a stimulus check, but it was a stimulus for the economy.
Yeah, it just extended
like a year ago,
it extended some deadlines or something.
Yeah, that was like 10 months ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
It was. It seemed like forever.
It was, and it was a heck of a ploy. I don't understand why the last second. Wait a minute, 2,000 or whatever it is, but it certainly put a jolt in everybody that was kind of watching that over the holiday break to see what was going on, but. We'll see how the economy responds.
Yeah,
right?
And
moving forward.
Yeah, talking about 2021, we have Mark Pena, MW Squared LLC. Front Sight Focus is essential for conquering your business life. So that 2021, time to hit the ground running once more.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely is.
It is.
It'll be interesting to see what goes on. Talking with Zach and everybody, and you got the reverse logistics and so on going on. It's going to be very difficult. It's what is the trucking industry seeing out there? What is intermodal seeing out there? We could talk to somebody. I know somebody we could talk to that has frontline knowledge of what's happening out there. His name is Sherman Barnes II, and he's head of sales and marketing at Trio Trucking. Hey, Sherman, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing excellent. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for being available. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Very insightful. Can you give people a little bit of background on yourself? You and I have known each other for a number of years, but give the people a background on yourself and Trio Trucking. Give yourself a plug. What do you guys do there?
Yeah, so first of all, Trio Trucking is a company owned, African-American owned asset-based transportation company. So we offer full truckload services as well as intermodal services from an asset-based perspective. Been in business for over 40 years, so we're working with some really large Fortune 500 clientele, but we're continuing to look to expand into the middle market segment as well. For me personally, I've been in the business for over 15 years, so I've worked at C.H. Robinson, Schneider, UPS, a lot of larger organizations, so it was really a great opportunity to come to a smaller company to see what I can do to help them expand.
It's a pleasure to have you on again, Sherman. Zach was talking just a second ago about coming out of the West Coast and the dynamic right now between rail or intermodal and full truckload. What are you seeing out there?
So for us, first of all, I guess I'd say last year for us was really a good year. I know, that's, kind of a mixed bag for other people, depending on what customer segments they were dealing in. But intermodal for us was really outstanding. To be quite frank with you, we had the best year that we've ever had. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Yeah. We
so,
got
yeah,
you, brother. Go.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to make sure. So intermodally, we did really well. We have some strong relationships with our rail provider out there. We're IMC there. So we had, some issues. Obviously, there were loads that we could have gotten from clients that there wasn't additional capacity to be able to handle. But we were able to get it done based on the relationships. And so for us, intermodal was great last year.
Yeah, so we talking to Zach, we were talking earlier, and you and I have spoken a number of times. But January is usually this dead type of, or at least it's kind of lulls you to sleep a little bit. This January is usually not eventful. Are you seeing things pick up? What are you expecting this January? Do you think it's going to occur? You guys are into the intermodal and the truckload over the road, so you guys are heavily affected by imports, et cetera. Are you expecting a January kind of that ho-hum, let's get this thing cranking again, or is it going to come out like gangbusters over the next week or two? What are you guys thinking?
So again, I'm an optimistic person. From the data that I'm seeing, I'm really excited about 2021, like January, right? Now some people may talk to you and they may say something different, but again, it really does depend upon what segment of the market you're servicing. Right. So some segments of the market or vertical industry verticals may be down in January and other ones could be up. But we're not really seeing a significant slowdown as of yet. Now, again, what is it, January the 5th? So, only time will tell. But from what we're seeing and hearing from our customers, I mean, we're still rocking and rolling, guys.
Let's talk about optimism, and let's talk about tight capacity as well, Sherman. We've seen a series of driver pay increases. We know that, even with the training schools and opening up a bit, they're still constrained. How is it finding drivers right now?
That is very challenging. Finding drivers is challenging. I mean, finding freight right now, we're in those relationships. There's additional freight that we can't get just because, again, we're able to go get buy trucks, lease trucks, whatever we may need to do. But finding the drivers is very challenging. And one thing that's pretty interesting as you're talking about that, you historically would think that finding drivers will be difficult only on the long haul. But for us, particularly from an asset-based truckload perspective, we're more of a regional provider. So in that Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and even with routes where we can get a driver back home, people are still not as interested in becoming a truck driver, and I don't understand it. Like if I ever lost my job and was really struggling to find work, trucking would be where it's at. But sadly, I'm not seeing as many people seeming to be interested right now. So recruiting is something that we're continuing to work on. But even again, with having everybody home every night, it's still a challenge.
That's an interesting perspective because, you hear the choke point of the schools being shut down or, limited in the number of students per instructor, but the applications into those schools is also down. Is that correct?
Sherman?
Well, in our world, us find, so again, we don't have our own school, but,
Right.
us recruiting drivers is still, that's still a challenge. And for me, it's just very surprising that even, if you're getting home every night, even in the intermodal space, doing drayage runs or whatnot, you're still having challenges there. It's not as pronounced as it is with the longer haul, but it's still a challenge.
Yeah, those would be the picks, right? Drivers, my career and asset and actually moving freight has been, get me home every night, get me home every weekend, give me regular routes, et cetera. Those were the gravy runs, those were the good runs, but that's not attracting the guys to you guys.
Yeah. So hopefully, things like lowering the age, to 18 or whatnot. Those are some things, those are options at this point that we're going to have to look at, I think as a nation. And if you can die for your country, if you can join the military and, serve your country from that perspective and risk dying for your country, I think we can trust you to drive a 18-footer.
Yeah, we had a question a while ago, too, about drug usage and kind of going on the drug clearinghouse. What effect do you think that has on finding new drivers right now?
I think that it is an effect as well. Again, I've been in the business for quite a while, as I'm sure you guys have. So that can be a challenging aspect as you're recruiting people. And so, drug clearinghouse, we're definitely anticipating seeing it's a good thing. So let me start off by saying that, I have 6 children, me and my wife. So if I'm driving down the highway, I want to make sure that the drivers that are around me on the highway are safe, and not under any sort of influence or whatnot. So it's a great thing. But from a, recruitment perspective, there have been incidents where, we've had to let people go at every company, right? You run across things like that, but now it's going to chase them down wherever they go. And I think that that's a good thing for the industry overall. But to answer your question, yeah, it's going to impact it. I don't know how significant it'll be, but it will have some impact.
Yeah, one question I have is how do you see this really affecting the capacity that is out there and moving forward through this year? If freight levels stay where they're at, this elevated level above last year. I mean, right now, if we saw a spike to the amount of volume that we're seeing right now, if we saw that, last January, we would have been all. You're right. We'd have been all over. It's like, holy cow, are you kidding me? This much rejection rate and volume this year. But even in 18, when we had those large spikes, the volumes kind of stayed, but then capacity caught up. If there's no new drivers coming through here, we need autonomous vehicles, right, to get the capacity and platooning and so on and new technologies to get this stuff going and working severely smarter. We can't live with 25% being the norm for rejection rate, and half the loads in Erie in January, the first week in January, are being rejected.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I'm hoping that that technology, I think it's gonna come faster. I think that with COVID happening, just as an example, everybody thought that it's less productive to have workers working from home. That's been nixed, right? A lot of different technologies that people questioned and weren't using prior to COVID, they're now using, and I think that's going to translate over into autonomous vehicles and things, because it's definitely going to be something that we need. I think that recruiting drivers is going to continue to be a problem in the future. I also think that, speaking of 18, there was a lot of overinvestment that happened. I don't know if you remember that year or not, but a lot of guys, they saw January as gangbusters, man, let's just order trucks and order this and order that. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, it shrank. I mean, guys, everybody still remember those days. So, there's definitely going to be, opportunity to invest and go get trucks, but you don't want to get too far ahead of it just because nobody truly knows the future. And everybody got burned for the most part in 2018. And I just don't think you're going to see just a robust, like a ton of capacity getting added as it was then.
Yeah, Sherman, let's flip back over to the demand side and being optimists that we are. What are you hearing from your customers? How optimistic are they?
So, there's a new administration in office, so that's going to be, a little interesting bit of a dilemma. I do think there's an anticipation that, taxes, we'll see some changes there. I also think that, there's, what will the legislative environment be like from a legal perspective, bringing on laws, but they're pretty optimistic. Just so I guess they're saying, cautiously optimistic about the future. I think that as the vaccines continue to roll out, just to be frank, like everybody's bored out of their skull. I think as long as they're able to have jobs and the money still coming in, like we're gonna spend, baby. So I think that it's an opportunity. I really truly do, man. I mean, everybody's been stuck in the house, and for those of us fortunate enough to have employment, gainful employment, I mean, think about it. If COVID is completely gone, right, or if it's under wraps and most people are vaccinated or feeling comfortable, I mean, they're gonna go out and start shopping again. So everybody's pretty much cautiously optimistic.
Yeah,
that
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would.
I would agree with it. You're dead on right. People are going to buy, baby.
Well, and
you're right.
Let's talk about that and the mix shift, right? If everyone's feeling comfortable out of their house, how will a shift back to entertainment, travel, kind of non-tangible or intangible goods affect the tangible market that is trucked around the country?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I just think that in general, as people, start going out more often, for example, like if I'm going out with my wife or we're planning family trips, I'm going to buy other clothing as an example, so that would be something that we'd be more interested in. I have 6 children, so when we go on trips, sometimes we're taking advantage. So now I'm buying more, juice boxes and chips and everything for the trip. So that's going to affect food. We're going out to restaurants more often. So even though, a movie is a movie theater, for example, is a service or a concert is a service. I mean, behind that, you got the food, you got the drinks, You got the electronics, you got all of those things that will come into play for that. So I think that it's going to make volume, if not stay where it is now, continue to increase. But again, it is the future. So I'm cautiously optimistic, and based on what I'm seeing so far these first few days and what I'm hearing from customers in terms of what they're planning on this year, I'm still optimistic about the year yet.
Good, good. We are optimistic too.
Absolutely.
We're 5 days into the year. We have 360 more to go. Hopefully, they're as good as today. Sherman, how does our audience reach out and learn more about Churro Trucking and yourself?
Okay, yeah. So if you're interested in learning more about us, you can look at www.trioenterprises.com, or you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there, as well as Twitter. And you just look for Sherman Barnes II, and it'll pull me right up. I got a unique name.
You do. You do.
Easy man to find. Thank you, James or Sherman, and we'll have you back on very soon, and we'll see what's going on, man.
All right. Appreciate it. Take care now.
Be good, man.
You too. Take care.
No, I was reading James Fry, C.R. Burns. Happy New Year to you as well from James Fry. Sorry about that. And C.R. Burns. I don't know if you have any advice for this. C.R. Burns is optimistic and says, "I'm in the process of getting into my first truck. Is it better to buy or lease?"
I don't have good advice for that. I really don't. I wish I did, but I don't.
All right.
So I think talking to as many people as you can find to research that out is probably the best practice, but it's something that I don't think I could help you out with.
There you go. Shadrach Kabayan says, very true, talking about technology. Technology should be leveraged to unlock intermodal possibilities and the flow. Smart supply chains are a must. And yes, indeed, from what is it? Adebayo agrees. And I agree, too. I mean, we got to leverage this technology. Everybody's worried about AV vehicles or that type of stuff, but we need the capacity. we
do need the capacity, and let's talk about capacity and what that means in the regulatory environment that we're going in, that we've been going in with our Washington, D.C. correspondent here at FreightWaves, John Gallagher. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, you guys. How are you guys doing? Good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, John.
Too. Certainly. So, so we're coming into a new administration, a new year. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah. Well, I guess I think that where to start is what's happening today with this special election in Georgia. That runoff. Obviously, that's going to affect a lot. Have a big implication on what happens as far as Congress and as far as legislation moves. So, for just two quick things, I mean, it could have an effect on nominations. So for Pete Buttigieg, for example, who's the nominee for DOT cabinet, the thought being that if say it goes Republican in the Senate, it becomes a Republican-controlled Senate, that could more easily block a nominee like Buttigieg or anyone else that they don't like, which could extend the nominating process. But more importantly, I guess, if we look at the infrastructure, an infrastructure bill and the prospects for an infrastructure bill, it's interesting. So the ATA has mentioned that having a divided Congress, where you would have the Democrats retain control of the House and the Republicans get control of the Senate, could actually be a good thing, because it would force their philosophies. It would force the two sides to negotiate, which could mean getting an infrastructure bill done more quickly. But then again, the outcome of this Georgia election could also affect what the next infrastructure proposal actually looks like. You know, how big and how much of Joe Biden's green agenda gets included in that. I mean, he has his $2 trillion, what he calls his Build Back Better plan that lumps a lot of things together, like climate change, social justice, and an infrastructure initiative that wants to get, for example, zero emissions by 2050, for example. And another example of trying to lump some of these all these types of different policy issues together is this: there's a transportation lobbying group here in D.C. that has contributed to the Democratic lawmakers. They want to see a competitive grant program that would basically redesign or deconstruct highways that have been interstate highways that have been built, since 1950, that they say have hindered the growth in some low-income and minority communities. So, and there's also a focus on transit versus new highway capacity that Biden has. So this election, this Georgia election, really, and how it affects the Congress could have a big impact on what an infrastructure bill looks like and and how big they want to go with it.
You know what my favorite part of this being election day in Georgia on this runoff is? Living here in Chattanooga, about 5 miles from the Georgia line, and being in a metro where there's TV viewership.
Yeah.
No more commercials.
Oh
my God.
Jeez.
We've all been pummeled with commercial after commercial from until the November 4th, and then all the way through here. It's just been unbearable.
It really has.
It really has.
Is bad. It really is bad.
In Tennessee, just because you guys are just so close there, you mean?
Yeah. So part of the viewing area of Chattanooga is in Georgia. So we are getting those media ad blitzes from Georgia nonstop.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things that could be swayed as far as where the direction goes or where the emphasis is built. Like you pointed out, transit versus new highway capacity, and you've got other things that are on the Democratic wish list that could be kind of put together there, like I guess insurance premiums and testing, that type of stuff. Can you expand into that a little bit?
Yeah, that's right. Because so it has again this runoff can have a effect specifically on trucking as part of that infrastructure. Back in last July, the House passed their own infrastructure bill with this what a lot of people call this wish list. It included raising minimum insurance from the minimum insurance coverage from $750 to $2,000, making the CSA, the compliance, safety, accountability scores public, which can affect safety ratings and potentially sideline your truck. Public funding for truck parking. There was AEB, automatic emergency braking legislation in their requirements. Stricter standards for underride guards. So there was a lot in that bill that affected trucking specifically, and I guess where you stand, how big a trucking company you are, what kind of a trucking company you are, would sort of affect where you stand on some of those issues. Because I know there's some nuances there depending on what kind of a trucking company you are, but so that's the point, Michael. That this runoff election can have specific effect on what's included in a Biden infrastructure package that has already been started by the Democrats.
It'd be interesting to see what kind of infrastructure package can be passed. I know that for the last 4 years they've been working on it. If we flip over and look at, primarily driver regulations, hours of service, drug clearinghouse, other type of things coming down the pipeline, what is your initial feeling on where we go from here?
Well, for hours of service, for example, there is a court case right now. Safety groups are appealing those hours of service regulations that went into effect in September. They're appealing it here in DC. So that could be done. That could have an effect depending on when they rule on that, where the Biden administration comes down, because they could have an influence on what happens. I mean, that could delay them or maybe potentially have an in there to maybe change them again. And as far as there's another issue that's could be taken up by the administration in the next 100 days, the hair test guidelines, for using hair as a way to test for drugs. There is actually guidelines in place that the HHS has promulgated, but they haven't signed off on them. So if that's done before January 20th, those and these guidelines are something that the trucking industry for a lot of them do not like them. So that could be actually go into place. Now, if it's not done before the inauguration, the Biden administration could come in and make tweaks to that or scrap them altogether. So those are a couple of things from a driver perspective that are coming in the next 100 days as well.
Does this have any implications on the independent contractor definition that we've been reading so much and seeing going down in California, et cetera? Are there implications there as well?
There are implications there too, because the FMCSA has a court case going on in California that was brought on by the Teamsters and others. That ruling hasn't been set yet either. So there's that, and there's also the FMCSA. Also, a couple of months ago, I think we talked about it on the last show. The Washington State they ruled that the federal hours of service preempts Washington State's meal and rest break laws too. They have, but there's been no lawsuit filed on that yet. But that could come too. So yeah, exactly. Those are two areas. Meal and rest break laws for California and Washington also are on the table as well.
So John, do you have any bold predictions for 2021?
Bold predictions?
Yeah, let's do bold predictions. Andrew Cox just did his 5 bold predictions for retail supply chain. Let's hear yours for the regulatory or the new administration.
I think as far as well, let's go with the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. I think now that we've had that in for a year, every month now that comes out with new statistics, we're going to see a year-over-year difference in, because this is the information. The information goes into the DNA Clearinghouse has never been really seen before. I mean, they've never really charted that before. So I'm thinking that the predicted fallout of driver capacity is going to be real as we look month over month as we see the fallout of drivers that aren't able to drive because of this new stricter standards in the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. And just another prediction. I think we're finally going to get an infrastructure bill passed. That's not that bold, but
it is kind of bold.
I'm sorry. I mean, a long-term infrastructure bill. I mean, we still go to September and do an add-on, but I think it'll be a long-term one.
Wow.
So that omnibus or that comprehensive infrastructure bill finally in 2021.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Interesting.
Wow, you got to write that one down.
I know, I did.
Somebody in the audience, write that one down quick.
Yes. So that would be very interesting. We'll have to see how that pans out over the coming months. So I guess the first step of anything is the special election in Georgia today. I think that's going to have a lot of determinations of what happens in 2021. So we'll have you on very soon to give us an update on everything. John, how does our audience reach out and contact you for story ideas and sources?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So my email is jgallagher@freightwaves.com, and my Twitter is John A. Gallagher 1, numeral 1. Both are great ways to get in touch with me for stories.
Thank you again, John.
Excellent. Thank you, John.
Today. We'll see you soon.
For as many commercials as we got, we should be able to go vote.
I know, right?
We're as well informed as anybody in Georgia.
It's like the same 4 commercials, too.
Oh, I know it is.
You know, they don't make new ones. It's just the same 4 over and over and over again. Yeah. So let's turn back to the weather to close out the show here, to close out the hour. What do we have, Kaylee?
Going on. But that's okay, because looking forward the next few days, we will see that area of snow that's developing in central Colorado. That'll kind of slide off into the central plains, possibly bringing some light snow showers to that panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas area. Nothing like what they've seen the past couple storms. They've gotten absolutely hammered with up to a foot in some places the last couple weeks. Then as it transitions over, picks up some more moisture from the Gulf, we could see some rain chances impacting the central Mississippi Valley. Down here into Tennessee as well, but still staying relatively quiet, at least for the next few days. But as always, guys, you know that we're not staying quiet on social and on our website. Senior meteorologist Nick Austin just dropped his 3rd installment of his Scariest Bridges for Truckers series. And I'm actually getting ready to launch kind of a crowdsourcing social media picture weather group, I guess is what I'm calling it Your Casting. So want to reach out to all of our listeners, all of our viewers. I want to see what you guys are seeing out on the roads, if you guys are driving, wherever you guys are listening to our podcasts or catching our shows. I want to see what you guys are seeing. So feel free to drop me some photos on any of our FreightWaves social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can also find me on Twitter at KayleeNixWX and also on LinkedIn as well. I just want to see what you guys are seeing.
Yeah, certainly send in your photos, send in your videos, and we will use them on the Midday Market updates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going forward.
Yeah, I like the Your Casting idea. That's great.
It is fantastic. Thank you very much,
Very
Kaylee.
cool. Thank you, Kaylee.
So let's talk about virtual conferences.
You think we should? I've never heard of such a thing.
I know, right? I know. We have a lineup coming up
Yeah,
for you.
yeah. If you haven't been to one, they're awesome. And you know, the ones that we've been doing here, obviously here at FreightWaves, really redefining defining virtual conferences. Let's just put it out there where it is. They're badass and they're awesome.
Yes.
And we've got January 28th is our next virtual conference. It's all about sales and marketing, logistics, and freight tech. And then we have February 22nd through March 3rd is the Global Supply Chain Week, which we have different, focusing on different things each day of the week, right? So Monday is air cargo and ocean logistics. Tuesday, going through geopolitical challenges in aerospace and military. Wednesday, food, produce, perishables, consumer packaged goods, and retail. Thursday is manufacturing and building construction. Friday, health, pharmaceuticals, mining, chemicals, and energy. So really hitting it all across the across the supply chain. It's going to be a great week of great content from the leading minds in the industry.
Yeah, it's going to be a week plus.
Absolutely.
Right. So 7 full business days of content coming to you that last week of February. And also on February 10th, we have a one-day conference for healthcare and pharma. So that was recently released.
Yeah.
I think I broke the news right here.
I think
so,
you did.
So February 10th. And you can find out all about our virtual conferences at live.freightwaves.com. We have our schedule and our speaker lineups all there as they come into production, updated daily. So
what do we got going on later today and tomorrow?
So at 2 o'clock today, we have Great Quarter Guys with Andrew Cox and Seth Holm. 3 o'clock today. Eastern Time. Yeah. We have Andrew and Seth talking about where finance and freight intersect. So they always have great segments on different public equities that are in the supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the different dynamics that go along with it.
The different dynamics,
like
definitely.
a $90 million activist in investment.
Exactly right. That is a very interesting topic. I'm sure they'll discuss that in one of their segments, Big Deal or Little Deal. As they do every week on Great Quarter Guys. Then tomorrow at noon Eastern Time, I have put that coffee down. Special guest co-host Blythe Brumleaf is joining me again this week.
Awesome.
We don't even have a guest. We're just going to talk about how to get the hook, how to hook your prospect.
Oh, is that right?
You know, that first 5-10 seconds, or there's
the elevator
first
pitch?
1 or 2 sentences.
The elevator pitch?
Well, it's a little bit, it's part of that. It's the beginning of the elevator pitch. It's how you get someone's attention.
Very first impression, attention.
That very first impression,
boom.
Yes. You got it, Michael Vincent.
Gotcha.
Definitely. So that's what we're going to do at 12 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Yesterday, What the Truck. Again, a mega episode of What the Truck. You guys had Ben Kowalski on there from Freight 360, I know. Who else?
From Freight 360, and it was a great show. We talked about what did we talk about yesterday? We talked about with Ben at Freight 360, and then we had Stored was on. Our boys from Stored, Jacob
raised a big
Stored
round.
was on. They did about a month or two ago. Another $36 million. I think they've raised almost $50 million. But new tech in that space, and talking about how they're bringing the tech to the freight and the warehousing to bring all that visibility together and be able to use flexible warehousing and trucking and spot market, but still keep all of your data and your inventory information together, so you know where all that is off of those different disparate sources. Really good stuff.
That's awesome. And another episode on Friday. And then next week, you guys go to 3 days a week.
Yes, we do.
And we'll be back Thursday for another Midday Market update.